Hello and welcome to the Dance Yourself Brave show, where we get real about the struggles dancers face, from confidence battles to self-doubt, and how dance has the power to make us braver, stronger, and more unstoppable in every area of life. I'm your host, Mariana Santos, founder of Brazily Fitness. And whether you're a seasoned dancer, a dance instructor, dance lover, or someone who's always wanted to dance but feels a little intimidated to start, this show is for you. Expect honest conversations, inspiring stories, and simple ways to bring more dance into your life, whether that's in the studio, on stage, or right in your living room. And if you're a dance instructor, we've got you covered with tips on how to grow your dance business, attract more students, and create a bigger impact through your passion for movement. So if you're ready to step out of your comfort zone, own your movement, and dance yourself brave, let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dance Yourself Brave show. So today I have another awesome guest with me, Maia Mahosky. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to chat. So Maia is a lifelong dancer, dance educator, and host of the Casual Dance Teachers podcast. She holds a BA in dance from Goucher College and has been teaching dance classes in a studio setting for over a decade while working full-time and raising her family. So I'm super excited to get into this because, a lot of the times that I interview dance teachers, they do this as a full-time career, right? And so I'm interested to know what your other career is, right? And how you kind of mesh everything together. So let's start from the beginning though. Tell me about you and how you got started with dance in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So my mom actually put me in a Mommy and Me ballet class when I was 2. So I truly have been a lifelong dancer. And I think I was only probably 7 or 8 when I started really begging my parents to let me take more classes. I was just obsessed with dance from the beginning. I started to attend summer programs and take class any chance I could get. So that's just continued through my whole life. And when I did have the opportunity to go to college, I attended Goucher, as you mentioned, and got my BA in dance. And I am a very practical person, I'll say. I felt like it was so much a part of me that I was a dancer, and that was just like my single passion through my whole life. But I wanted something that I could make a career, and practically I was not going to be like a prima ballerina or anything like that. So I decided to pursue dance education because I did feel really passionate about that and I enjoyed sharing dance. And when I started my degree program on that track, at least in my program that I was in, you were required to take a lot of the sort of standardized education courses for the state of Maryland, which is where my school was located, which I think is great. But for me, that was so intense. And I felt myself gravitating, again, even more towards dance and just wanting to take that creative path, that the education requirements felt a little bit too binding for me. So then I started to kind of reassess and look at what is my place in the dance world and what do I want this to look like moving forward. And I was, again, just trying to take any opportunity dance related that I could within my program and even outside of the program in sort of the dance scene within the Baltimore area. I did get to the point by my junior year in college where I was taking a lot of the higher level technique classes. I was auditing classes where I was like taking extra class, not for credit, just to keep my technique up. And I had auditioned for a ton of different pieces and gotten cast, which was so exciting. I was working with really renowned choreographers, some of our top faculty, other students. And it was like the culmination of everything of what I thought I wanted to be fulfilled artistically. But what started to happen during that time was that some of the rehearsal directors were coming to me about halfway through that semester and just saying, Maia, what's going on? We're not really seeing that performance quality from you that we feel like you used to have. And it's just not really working out the way that we thought. And that was really hard. And I thought maybe I just had to work harder and, I had to try and prove that I could do it. And I wasn't sure what the missing piece was. So I pushed through that semester. I got to the final performance of that semester. I was in a lot of pieces, and first performance of that weekend while I was on stage in front of like 700-person audience, I dislocated my knee and just crumpled to the ground in the middle of the dance. And kind of like I was able to finish the dance, kind of modifying and staying off of that knee. But I tell that story because I think that was a really pivotal moment for me where I realized that as much as I did love dance, and there were a lot of things about that I did enjoy, and I'm glad I had that experience, pushing myself to try to like fulfill other people's vision of what I should look like as a dancer was totally killing my joy in it. It was totally killing my performance quality to where they weren't even seeing what they wanted to see from me. And it was destroying my body at the same time. So after all of that, of course, that just kind of was the start of a whole nother journey. But after
Mhm.
all of that, that was where I kind of said, I had to look at myself, and this is really hard. I would say even harder than healing from an injury was the personal work of looking at myself and saying, I've spent my whole life identifying as a dancer and thinking that being a dancer, being a better dancer and gaining more skill and things like that somehow gave me like intrinsic value. At the end of the day, that's not what it's about. Dance can be a joyful part of my life, a fun and fulfilling part of my life, but there's a lot more to me too. And moving forward from there, I had to kind of figure out how to lean into all the parts of me and everything that I enjoy doing. And I think that was the start of me realizing that I can work any kind of job, any kind of career. I've worked in a number of different fields. I've worked in administration for arts organizations. I've worked in sales quite a bit. And actually, currently, I am just a stay-at-home mom. I'm not working outside of teaching dance,
Well, that's
but
a full-time job, I would say.
yes, yes. Not just a stay-at-home mom, but I am a stay-at-home mom at the moment and just focusing on that. And being a dance teacher in a studio as sort of a side thing, that's just my passion and something that I do on the side. And also starting my podcast as a passion and something that I do on the side have been so fulfilling. And I think really allowed me again to kind of keep my focus on dance being something that I find joy in and allows me to express myself, but not my whole entire identity.
That is beautiful because I think that, I'm sure that a lot of dancers can relate to that, right? Kind of succumbing to the outside pressures and feeling like that's, who you are. Like your whole identity is based around dance, right? So, I mean, my next question was to ask about your struggles. And I think that, like, you kind of summarized that,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, those are intense struggles, right? And sometimes, like, on the show, we talk about struggles with, dancers growing up, like, dealing with body image issues or, different things like that. But that is a struggle that maybe we don't hear about a lot, right? That just like finding yourself, right? Like who you are outside of dance. And I don't know if you had this like when you became a mom, but I had something similar when I became a mom where I was like, am I, besides being a mom now, like now I'm Bella's mom, right? And so it's a similar type of thing, right? So I think that as women, like in different, phases in our life, like we have to sit back and be like, okay, who am I? What do I want? What brings me joy? And that's awesome that, you were able to find that. And how do you think like going through this process has shaped like who you are as a person and how does that affect your life today?
Yeah, like I said, it's an ongoing process. I think there definitely was a lot of emphasis put on trying to know your career trajectory in my family and my upbringing from a young age. And so making that college decision, it was like, this is going to shape who you are. And that was a lot of pressure. And I think looking back and where I am now and the work that I've done on kind of trying to assess what my values are and like my sense of self, that maybe was a little bit much because anytime that I've had a career shift, I've had to work through like, okay, am I feeling like this is the right path for me because it's going to allow me to fulfill these other things by having the financial means to do it, or am I feeling like there's pressure that like I have to pick a career that has some sort of like value to the rest of society, that they perceive it to be more valuable than maybe being a stay-at-home mom or maybe another career path that I could choose. So yeah, it's definitely a work in progress. Like I know generally for me, when I'm listening to a podcast, I want someone that's like, I went through this and these are the steps that you can take. And then we will, ascend to a higher
Here's
level
the
of being.
solution to
I'm
your
not there
life.
yet. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not there yet. But I'm, like I said, I'm glad that I had those experiences that forced me to step back and say, okay, if I don't have this thing, what are the other things that are going to keep me going?
Yeah, and like you said, like it forced you, right? Like, and I'm sure that that was really hard. Like that injury, I'm sure you weren't happy about it when it happened, right? But when we look back and at our struggles, we realize that there was a reason why that had to happen, right? And it was for your own growth and to discover, different things that light you up in life, right? So yeah, I think that it's an ongoing journey, and I think that sometimes we do have that habit of, like you said, like listening to podcasts or reading a book and be like, this is the solution. And really, I think the solution is to realize that we're always a work in progress, right? And we always have to take things one step at a time, try to do a little bit better than we did yesterday, and like, just compete with ourselves and not, like, especially with social media, people are, this habit of comparing like their lives with everyone else's lives, and really just work on you, right? And whatever that looks like, whatever makes you happy. And yeah, and not settle, right? Like for, career paths that aren't filling your cup anymore, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you still get to teach dance, right? So
Yes.
what is something that you wish that your students knew about you?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I'm pretty private with my students. I'm friendly with them, but I don't think they really know a lot about me. And I think this has been a through line on your podcast as well, that I'm not a super outgoing person, but in dance class, I'm so enthusiastic. I'm
Yeah.
so energized. And I think that's what my students maybe think, that I like
Hmm.
about my life all the time, like yelling and singing and doing all these things, which I don't typically. So maybe just if they knew that I am a little bit more introverted and, I have bad days. And when I go into the studio, because I teach a lot of like preteens, and that's a tough age for emotional regulation. And I see a lot of them come in having a bad day and it affects their dancing. And I don't know if it would help them, but if they knew maybe that sometimes I do have to push myself out of my comfort zone to be in that state for them, but that it's worth it for me. And it does fill my cup to sometimes just put that on. And then by the end of it, I'm actually kind of feeling energized from it. Maybe that would inspire them as well. Because I know all my students, they're dealing with hard stuff too. And just school is tough. And when you have dance on top of that and other extracurriculars, like they're dealing with a lot. And so I just want them to know that everyone is dealing with a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And I love how, we're pretty similar in that sense because I'm also very introverted,
Yeah.
and people think like when they come to my classes, like, wow, like you must be the most confident, outgoing person. And I'm like, I am like what I'm teaching, but like I also like to have my me time, recharge my batteries on my own. Yeah. And I think that sometimes people think that people who are in these like teaching roles, these leadership roles, that they just have everything figured out and they never have bad days. And I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've been like, I just really don't want to teach today. And, like just a bad day. But then, like you said, it's like this magic thing happens, right? By the end of the class, you're like, I'm so happy I got up there and taught, right? And yeah, so, but I think that if we talk about that more, people will realize it's like you're just human, right? Even if you're doing the thing that you love most in the world, you're still gonna have days where you just don't feel like doing it.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. And what's one student success story that stands out to you the most? Like maybe something recent, like a story you heard from one of your students, something that they've been able to accomplish since starting classes with you.
Yeah, actually, when I heard that question the first time, something immediately popped into my mind. And it's such a small, trivial thing that the student probably does not remember. But for me, this stood out. And it was actually last season when we were teaching our recital dances. So I think that's often a time in the year where you start to see these gains, because when they're working on the technique, it's harder to notice until they start doing the same choreography week after week and you start to see it build. And that's when sometimes you have these big aha moments that are so
Okay.
exciting for the students. But one of my students last season, we were working on a part of their dance that was very tricky, especially for the age, like not some of my more advanced students, but I gave them something to challenge them. And I heard her, she wasn't like saying this out loud intentionally to share with the class, but I heard her say out loud to herself, I was about to start the music and have them run this section for the first time. And she goes, this is going to be hard and I can do it. And I just love that so much. It wasn't like a mantra that I specifically had said, but that is I was like, yes, she gets it. Like, that's what we're here for. And more so than, any kind of accolades in the dance world. I don't know if my students are going to continue on with dance after, but whatever she does in life, if she knows that something can be hard and she could do it, that was a huge win for me. So I'd say that's like the top one that stands out in my mind, just that little tiny moment.
Well, that just like I just got chills because to me that's what dance is all about, right? I mean, even like the Dance Yourself Brave show, right? Like there's a reason for that, right? It's because I want people to realize that they can do hard things, right? And like nothing teaches you that better than dance, I think, right? So and like you said, like some of them maybe they will have a career in dance, but maybe they won't, right? But just that mindset of like knowing that they can do hard things and, they can fall down, get back up, right? That's like setting them up for success no matter what they decide to do. So I think like that's to me, it's what it's all about. Like
Yes.
way past like technique and all of that stuff, right? It's just like these skills, right, that we instill in people that will benefit them long term. So love it. And so with all of that being said, like what do you think is like the kind of impact that you're looking to make in the world? The big
Yeah.
question.
It's such a big question. It's so hard. It's so hard. But, I think I did come on here wanting to share a little bit about the fact that I kind of had to reframe my own mindset personally from thinking that somehow my worth as a person was tied into certain achievements and specifically achievements in the dance world, but that could really be anything for other people. So, both with my students in dance class and then with my podcast as well, that I want to share with other casual dance teachers. That's where I got the name for my podcast, that there doesn't have to be just like master teachers or elite teachers that are benefiting and growing and sharing their stories, but casual dance teachers make such a big impact. And that's probably the majority of dance teachers in the world are casual dance teachers,
Yeah.
the smaller studios or the Parks and Rec programs and things like that. And there's a place for us to really thrive in that, to learn and grow together, and to also impart those life lessons to our students while also being rigorous dance teachers. So, as far as my impact, again, maybe didn't answer your question, but just
That's
for
huge.
everyone to find the joy in whatever it is that they're doing and pursuing, whether it's as a hobby or as a career, that there is value in that and there's a space for everyone to pursue that.
And I mean, I think that you're doing a great job. I'm really excited to be on your podcast
Yes.
because, yeah, like I come more from like a fitness background, right? So more like dance fitness. And I started my career, and I remember I was one of the only, instructors who was also a personal trainer and worked full time in the industry. But most of the fitness instructors, they're casual fitness instructors, right? They have another full-time career and they do this, on the side, right? Like maybe a couple classes a week, right? And it's fulfilling to them in a way too, right? So it doesn't have to be your full-time gig, right? And for me, like starting a business, right? There's so much that goes on behind the scenes that is not dance related.
Mhm.
And, that's necessary, right? But sometimes I wish I could just like dance more,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's you just kind of have to roll with the punches and whatever phase you're in life, right? So I'm excited to talk about all of that
Yes,
on
I
your
can't
show.
wait.
Yeah. So what do you think the world needs more of nowadays?
That's another big one.
Yes.
Like, oof, where do I
I
start?
like to ask, the deep questions.
Ah, no kidding. I think my number one answer to that, maybe it's going to sound a little bit cheesy, but I would say just compassion. As a dance teacher, that's sometimes a tough one for me. I don't want to sound like I'm totally heartless, but sometimes I get so caught up in what's my curriculum for the day, what technical things does a student need to work on. And again, like I said, I know in my head, every student's coming into that space with their own struggles and their own things that they're going through. And to approach everything from a compassionate place, I think is the best way to reach them to improve their dancing. But then again, just like on a humanitarian level, just approaching every single thing with more compassion. And if the world had a little bit more compassion, then I think that would be better for everyone.
I agree. Like it's just the world definitely needs more empathy, more compassion, and just I feel like we've lost the ability to put ourselves in other people's shoes, right? And
Yeah.
And it can be tricky, like you said, right? Like sometimes you think like, like this is just the way it's supposed to be done. Or like, you look back to when you were a dancer, like just starting off, right? And how like you just push through certain things, right? And you expect them to do the same, but you have no idea what's going on in their life, right? So I understand where you're coming from, because I think that like the more like I try to be very mindful about that and like think about other people all the time, but we all have our moments where we're just like, wait a minute, like, like I'm not practicing compassion the way I should be right now, right? So I think just like that reflection is really important, and just like knowing like when you're kind of stepping out a little bit is key. So what advice would you give to someone who's just starting to dance? So maybe like they're curious about dance, and they're listening to this podcast. Maybe they didn't have the opportunity to start dancing at 2 like you did, right? So, maybe they have put up some walls and decided that dance isn't for them. Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah. Again, reflecting on my own story, I would love to be in that position of like finding dance for the first time again, and just the pure love and passion and joy of moving my body and not feeling like it has to look a certain way. Am I thinking about where my arm, my finger, my head, my eyeballs, my stomach muscles, like, if that narrative was not ingrained in me and I was just dancing for the first time, like, oh my gosh, what just pure joy. I think everyone should do that. And, again, I'm kind of coming at this from my own cultural background where dance was seen more as something that you train in, and there's so many cultures where dance is just part of communication and it's part of community. It's part of the expression of everyday life. And I would love for everyone to have that. So I would say just go for it. And aside from singing and dance are the two things that you can do anytime, any place. You need no equipment. And like, how empowering is that to have this art form that you can create with absolutely no limitations? So, yeah, like Buddy the Elf said, you can sing just by moving your voice up and down, and you can dance just by moving your body around. So, don't worry about the rules if you want to pursue that and learn that. Obviously, there's so many resources out there and opportunities to learn and improve as you go, but just start moving.
I love that. And it's so interesting how like to hear different perspectives, right? Because I didn't get a chance to dance when I was a kid, right? And sometimes I look back, I'm like, like it would have been so nice if I had started dancing younger, my technique would be better and this and that. But if I hadn't moved to Brazil as a teenager and, super shy, super awkward kid, and I was introduced to Brazilian music and dance, and just that, like you said, is like it's a culture where dance is just like a celebration of life, and it's not like focused on like perfect moves or anything. It's just like to find joy in the moment. And I don't think like I would have started dancing if it hadn't been that way, like that I was introduced to it. So yeah, I think that like really embodies my mission with Brazily Dance too, is like just to show that side of dance, right? Just like being in the moment, like letting go of pressure and just like having fun, using dance just to kind of de-stress and like learn to like build resilience, like fall down, like I said, get back up, right? When you make a mistake, that's fine, right? And yeah, so yeah, I love that. So I know that people are going to want to get in touch with you and they want to listen to your podcast, I'm sure. So share everything there is for people to reach out. And I'll also make sure to add all the links in the show notes so that people can click and get in touch quickly.
Yeah, that would be great. So the podcast, as you had mentioned, is called the Casual Dance Teachers Podcast, and that is, streaming on all your major platforms. I do have an Instagram page, which is just the Casual Dance Teachers Podcast on Instagram, and my contact information is linked in the bio of that as well. So if anyone wants to reach out and get in touch with me, they can go there. The final part of that is I have a Facebook group called the Casual Dance Teachers Network, and that's kind of the personal side. I have the podcast and I share different topics, particularly focused on helping to train dance educators. And in the Casual Dance Teachers Network, that's where we can kind of come together, bounce ideas and questions off of each other, and I can have that personal connection. So if you're on Facebook, I would invite you to join the Casual Dance Teachers Network as well.
Well, I loved chatting with you today, and I'm so excited to be on your show, and then we can chat some more. Thank you so
Yes.
much for sharing your story and like for everything that you're doing in the world. I find it's so important, and we just need to get more people dancing, whether that is like through a teacher who does this full time or someone who's doing it more casually. It's all about getting people moving, right? And finding that joy through movement. So thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you again. It was great to be here and also to help support your platform where you are helping to encourage more people to celebrate and enjoy dance. So thanks again.
Thank you. And thank you so much for tuning in. If this is the first time that you're on the show, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. And actually, the best way for us to spread the dance love across the globe is if you leave a review, because then more people will find the show and we could just work together to spread more joy and love. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Dance Yourself Brave show. If today's episode got you hyped, inspired, or just made you want to bust a move, do me a favor. Subscribe, leave your review, and share it with someone who needs to hear today's message. Sharing is caring after all. And hey, don't forget, your courage is already in you. Sometimes you just gotta dance it out to feel it. Catch you next time. Keep shining and keep dancing yourself brave.